The silent encounter. The night was cold and silent. The campfire burned low. A human named Aaron sat near his small tent. He had been traveling alone across the ruined lands. Food was always short, and every meal mattered to him as he prepared to eat his last piece of bread and dried meat. He felt a strange feeling. It was not the wind. It was not the sound of insects. It was something else. He turned slowly, his eyes scanning the shadows. There, near the corner of the tent, a small figure crouched low. It was thin, fragile, and shaking. The figure's large eyes reflected the dim firelight. Aaron blinked. At first he thought it was an animal, but then he saw the shape clearly. It was a young alien girl. She moved like a whisper. Her little hand reached for his food bag. She tried to be fast, but her weakness betrayed her. The bag slipped and made a soft sound. Aaron stood up quickly, his boots pressing into the dirt. The girl froze, her eyes wide with fear. Aaron's hand went to his knife, not because he wanted to harm her, but because he did not understand what she was doing. This land was full of dangers. Raiders, beasts, and alien soldiers. He could not trust anyone. Yet as he looked at her, his heart softened. She was no warrior, no soldier. She was just a starving child. "Why are you here?" Aaron whispered. But the girl did not answer. She only clutched a crumb of bread in her small hands, trembling as if she expected him to strike her. For a long moment the fire cracked and the night held its breath. Aaron felt anger rise inside him, not at her, but at the world that forced her. Into this she was skin and bones, her clothes torn and covered in dirt. Her face was pale, and her eyes were full of fear and hunger instead of yelling. Aaron knelt down slowly. He raised his hands to show he would not hurt her. "You are hungry," he said in a calm voice. "Take it." The girl shook her head. She stepped back, her alien features glowing faintly in the firelight. She looked almost human, yet her skin carried a faint silver hue. Her eyes larger than his, her hair wild and tangled. She seemed to be deciding whether to trust him or run. Suddenly, she turned and ran into the darkness, clutching the stolen crumb close to her chest. Aaron did not chase her, but his heart pounded. Something about her eyes stayed with him. They were not the eyes of a thief. They were the eyes of someone who carried pain too heavy for her small frame. He sat down again, his food untouched, but his mind was no longer calm. Questions filled his head. Why was she here? Where were her parents? Why was a child stealing from a human camp? And why did her face show so much sorrow? Aaron could not sleep. Each crack of the fire reminded him of her. He thought about his own childhood, when food had been scarce on Earth, when his mother had given him her share just to keep him alive. He remembered the hollow feeling in his stomach and the burning shame of begging for food. The night stretched long. The wind whispered through the ruined trees. Finally, he stood up and took a torch. He could not ignore the pull in his heart. He had to know where she had gone. He followed faint tracks in the dirt, small footprints leading away from his camp. They were light, careful, almost invisible, but he was a soldier once, trained to notice details others missed. Step by step he moved deeper into the ruins. The silence grew heavier, shadows wrapped around him. At last he saw it. A faint flicker of light deep inside a broken stone building. He moved closer, careful not to make a sound. He peeked through a crack in the wall. Inside, the girl sat on the ground, the crumb of bread in her hand, but she did not eat it alone. Around her were two smaller children, even younger than her. They were weak, their tiny hands reaching for the bread. She broke it into 3 parts, giving the larger piece to the youngest, keeping almost nothing for herself. Aaron's breath caught in his throat. He leaned back against the wall. The truth hit him like a blade. She had not stolen for herself. She had stolen for them. His anger melted away, replaced by something heavier. Guilt and sorrow. He had nearly drawn a knife on her. Fun. And yet she had been risking everything only to feed children weaker than herself. The torch in his hand flickered, and for a moment he thought of walking away, but his feet stayed still, his eyes locked on the scene, the children's faces lit by the soft glow, their eyes full of relief, even if only for a crumb. Aaron realized something. This encounter was no accident. Fate had placed that girl in his path. She was a silent warning, a reminder that the galaxy was cruel not because of the strong, but because the weak were left behind. He lowered the torch and whispered to himself, "This is not the end. This is only the beginning." As the night wind passed through the ruins, Aaron turned away, but his heart carried a new weight. He knew he could not return to his camp and forget them. He had seen their hunger, their struggle, and their courage. And deep inside, he knew this silent encounter was about to change everything. The hidden shelter. The morning sun rose slowly, its weak light spilling across the ruined lands. Aaron had not slept at all. His mind was caught between fear and pity. The image of the alien girl sharing crumbs with her siblings would not leave him. He packed his small bag, but his hands moved without focus. He knew he should continue his journey. He knew he should forget what he saw, yet his heart told him otherwise. Aaron walked back to the ruins, careful and silent. The building was broken, walls cracked, the roof half fallen. Inside it smelled of dust and damp earth. He peered in through the gap again. The girl was awake, her silver-hued skin glowing faintly in the morning light. She sat with the smaller children curled against her sides, one boy and one girl, both weak and thin. They clung to her as if she was their shield against the whole galaxy. Aaron stepped closer. The floor creaked, and the alien girl's head snapped up, her eyes filled with fear. She stood quickly, spreading her arms as if to protect the younger ones. "Stay back," she whispered, her voice trembling but firm. Aaron lifted his hands, showing he carried no weapon. "I will not hurt you," he said softly. "I only want to understand." The children behind her whimpered, hiding their faces. The older girl looked at them, then back at Aaron, her lips pressed tight, her body shaking but her spirit refusing to break. Aaron took a slow breath, then placed a piece of bread on the ground between them. He stepped back, his hand still raised. "For them," he said. The girl's eyes narrowed. She did not move at first, suspicion clear in her gaze. The world had taught her to trust no one, especially not a human stranger. But hunger was stronger than fear. After a long pause, she bent down and took the bread, breaking it quickly into pieces and handing them to her siblings. Aaron watched quietly, something heavy pressing on his chest. This was not survival for one, this was sacrifice for many. She kept the smallest piece for herself again, biting it so carefully, as if every crumb mattered more than gold. "What is your name?" Aaron asked. But she did not answer. She only looked at him with guarded silence. Suddenly a sound echoed outside, heavy footsteps, voices speaking in the alien tongue, harsh and commanding. The girl froze, her face pale. The children clutched her arms tighter. Aaron moved quickly, pressing himself against the wall. He peeked out through a crack. Alien soldiers marched past, their armor glinting in the light, their weapons sharp and ready. They were searching, scanning the ruins. One of them pointed toward the broken building. Aaron's heart raced. He turned to the girl. She shook her head quickly, fear filling her eyes. She whispered, "Please do not let them find us." The human felt his pulse thunder in his ears. He knew if the soldiers searched here, they would discover everything, and he would not be able to explain why he was hiding alien children. With quick steps, he moved forward, surprising the girl. He crouched low beside her and whispered, "Stay quiet, stay still, trust me." She wanted to protest, but something in his voice, something steady and unshaken, made her freeze. Aaron walked out of the building, his steps heavy on the broken ground. He made himself visible. The soldiers spotted him at once, their weapons raised. "What are you doing here, human?" One barked, his alien voice rough and commanding. Aaron kept his face calm, his hand resting casually on his bag. "Hunting for supplies," he said. "These ruins are empty. There is nothing here but dust and broken stone." The soldiers stared at him, their eyes sharp. One of them stepped closer, scanning the ground, his gaze lingering on the footprints near the wall. Aaron's heart pounded, but his face remained stone. "I came here last night," he added quickly. "I searched, found nothing. If you doubt me, search me." The soldier's eyes narrowed, suspicion deepening. He raised his hand, about to signal the others to check the ruins, but then another voice called from a distance, ordering them to move on. Something more urgent had been reported. With sharp movements they turned away, leaving the ruins untouched. Aaron exhaled slowly, his body tense. He returned inside. The girl's wide eyes met his, filled with shock, confusion, and something new, a flicker of trust. "Why did you do that?" she whispered, her voice breaking. Aaron looked at the three of them, small and fragile in the broken light, and he felt his answer was simple. Because no child should live in fear. The girl lowered her gaze, her hands trembling, and for the first time a tear slipped down her cheek. Aaron knew this was only the beginning. Danger would return. The soldiers would not give up so easily. But in that moment, he also knew one thing clearly. He could not leave them alone, not anymore. The chase begins. The sun climbed higher in the sky, but for Aaron and the alien children, the world only grew darker. The soldiers who had passed earlier were not gone for long. Their voices echoed again in the distance, harsh and sharp. Aaron knew the search was tightening. They were looking for someone, and now he understood who. The girl and her siblings were fugitives, hunted like animals. The alien girl paced nervously inside the ruins. Her siblings clung to her sides, her breath came quick and shallow. She looked at Aaron, her eyes full of worry. "They will not stop," she whispered. "They want us dead." Aaron felt a cold weight in his chest. "Why?" he asked quietly. "Why do they want children?" Her lips trembled. She pressed the younger boy closer to her chest, and finally she whispered, "Because our parents stood against them. They called my father a traitor. They called my mother a rebel. They killed them. Now they hunt us too." Aaron's throat tightened. He had seen war before, he had seen cruelty, but hearing it from her small voice struck him harder than any blade. Before he could speak more, the sharp crack of boots on stone grew louder. Soldiers were drawing near. Shadows fell across the broken walls. The girl's face turned pale. She pushed her siblings back into a corner, her body shaking. "You must go," she whispered urgently to Aaron. "If they find you with us, they will kill you too." Aaron stared at her, shocked by the strength in her trembling voice. She was ready to sacrifice herself just to protect a human stranger, but he shook his head firmly. "No," he whispered. "I will not leave you." The sound of weapons clashing and armor scraping drew closer. The soldiers were seconds away. Aaron's mind raced. Escape was the only choice. He grabbed the girl's hand suddenly. She gasped, but he pulled her and the children toward the broken wall at the back. They slipped through cracks in the stone. Moving into the shadows of the ruins, Aaron crouched low, guiding them through a path he had scouted earlier, his soldiers' instincts returning with every step. Behind them, the soldiers entered the shelter, their angry voices filled the air. One shouted, "They were here." Another replied, "Find them." Weapons clattered as they spread out. Aaron pushed forward. The girl struggled to keep her siblings quiet. The younger boy whimpered, but she covered his mouth gently, whispering soft words in her alien tongue. Her voice cracked with fear but also strength. They reached the edge of the ruins. Aaron peered out, but the land beyond was open. Too open. They would be seen if they ran. He clenched his fists, thinking fast. Suddenly, one of the soldiers spotted movement. "There!" he shouted, raising his weapon. A beam of light cut across the ground, striking near their feet. The children screamed. Aaron grabbed them, his body shielding them. He shouted, "Run!" His voice low but fierce. They bolted into the broken streets, weaving through fallen stone and rusted metal. The chase had begun. The alien soldiers stormed after them, their boots pounding the earth, their voices barking commands. The sound of metal against stone filled the air. Aaron pulled the girl and her siblings down narrow alleys, twisting and turning, his mind mapping escape routes. Every shadow, every broken wall became a shield. Yet no matter how fast they ran, the soldiers followed. Suddenly, they reached a collapsed bridge. The gap wide below it, a pit of jagged stone. The girl stopped in fear. "We cannot," she gasped. But Aaron gritted his teeth. He lifted the younger children one by one, leaping across with them, landing hard but steady. Then he reached for the girl's hand, pulling her with all his strength. She landed beside him, her breath ragged, her eyes wide with shock. Behind them, the soldiers hesitated. The gap slowed them. Aaron took the chance, pushing forward, leading the children into the deeper ruins. They finally stopped inside a hollow building. The children collapsed in exhaustion. The girl leaned against the wall, her chest rising and falling fast. She looked at Aaron with eyes that glistened in the faint light. "Why?" she whispered. "Why do you risk your life for us?" Aaron knelt, his hand trembling as he touched the ground. Memories of his own childhood returned. The hunger, the fear, the sound of soldiers marching. He looked at her and said softly, "Because once, I was just like you." The girl's lips parted, her eyes filled with tears, but before she could speak, a distant horn sounded. The soldiers were regrouping. They were not done. Aaron clenched his fists, his heart pounding. This was no longer about stolen food. This was survival, and he knew the chase was far from over. The burden of truth. The ruins grew quiet for a moment. Only the sound of the children's heavy breaths filled the air. Aaron leaned against the cold stone, his chest rising and falling. He looked at the alien girl, her eyes wet but burning with a strange fire. She held her siblings close, whispering to them in her alien tongue, her words soft like a song. The younger boy slowly calmed, his tiny fingers clinging to her torn sleeve. Aaron watched, and something inside him shifted. He was no longer looking at thieves or fugitives. He was looking at a family struggling to survive. After a long silence, the girl spoke, her voice breaking. "You should leave us, human. They will not stop hunting. If they catch you with us, they will kill you too." Aaron shook his head slowly. "If I walk away, you die. If I stay, maybe there is a chance." The girl stared at him, confused, her lips trembling. Why would you care? You do not even know us." Aaron took a slow breath, his eyes dark. "Because I know hunger. I know fear. When I was a boy on Earth, there was war. Soldiers came to our streets. Food was gone. My mother gave me her share so I would live. I never forgot the pain in her eyes. I never forgot what it feels like to starve." The girl's face softened. Her silver skin glowed faintly in the dim light. Tears slipped down her cheeks. "My parents, they did the same. They gave us their food until they had nothing left, and when the soldiers came, they stood in front of us. They called them traitors and killed them." Her voice cracked. She covered her face with her hands, her body shaking. Aaron's chest tightened. He felt anger. Not at her, not at her people, but at the cruelty of those who wore armor and called it order. He placed a hand on her shoulder, firm and steady. "You are not alone anymore," he whispered. Her siblings peeked out, their eyes wide and fragile, but they too leaned closer as if drawn by the strength in his words. The moment was heavy, but it was broken by a sound outside. Armored boots striking stone, voices rising again. The soldiers were not far. Aaron knew they could not hide forever. He had to make a choice, and fast. He opened his pack and pulled out what little food remained, half a loaf of bread, a dried strip of meat, and a small water flask. He handed it to the children without hesitation. "Eat," he said firmly. "You will need strength because this is not the end. It is only the beginning." The girl shook, her head pushing the food back toward him. "You will starve," she whispered. Aaron smiled faintly, though his eyes were cold. "A soldier can endure hunger, but children cannot. Take it?" She hesitated, then accepted, breaking the bread as always into equal pieces, giving the largest part to the youngest. Keeping almost nothing for herself, Aaron watched, a fire building inside him. This child carried more honor than the soldiers outside. She carried a burden no child should carry, yet she still shared, still protected, still endured outside. The voices grew sharper. Orders were shouted, the sound of weapons charging filled the air. Aaron's instincts screamed danger. He stood, gripping his knife, his eyes scanning the shadows. "They will search every ruin. They will come here soon," he said, his voice steady. The girl looked up, her eyes wide with fear. "What will you do?" Aaron turned his gaze toward the broken door, his hand firm on the blade, his voice like stone. "I will do what I must because your burden is now my burden too." The girl's lips parted. She wanted to speak, but no words came, only tears. The children clung tighter to her, and for the first time she felt something strange. A fragile thread of hope. Aaron's heart beat heavy. He knew what was coming would test him beyond hunger, beyond fear, but he also knew he could not turn away now. The truth was clear. Their Fight for survival was his fight too, and as the soldiers' shadows darkened the doorway, Aaron whispered to himself, "Let them come." The betrayal, the ruins felt heavier with every passing hour. Aaron kept the children close, his knife ready. The girl sat near him, her eyes red from tears, yet still burning with the same stubborn fire. For a brief time, the soldiers seemed to have pulled back, their voices faded into the distance. Aaron thought maybe they had moved on to another sector, but deep inside he knew this silence was a trap. He guided the children carefully out of the ruins and toward his camp. He thought it would be safer there. He had hidden supplies, a small shelter, and perhaps enough cover to buy them time as they approached. The girl's steps slowed. She tugged at Aaron's sleeve, whispering, "They will see. They will ask questions. Are you sure?" Aaron nodded. "I cannot leave you in the open. You will die out here?" Inside the camp, a few other humans moved about. Scavengers, travelers, and tired fighters. Most of them avoided Aaron. He was known as a man who kept to himself, but now their eyes locked on the alien children clinging to his side. Whispers spread quickly. Aaron ignored them, leading the girl and her siblings to his tent. He gave them water, covering the entrance with cloth to hide them from curious eyes. But whispers grew into questions. One man approached Aaron, his face hard, his tone sharp. "Why are they here, alien children? Do you know what this means? If the soldiers find out we are sheltering them, they will burn the whole camp." Aaron's jaw tightened. "They are not rebels, they are only children." The man spat on the ground, his eyes cold. "It does not matter. To the soldiers, to the commanders. Alien blood is alien blood, and if you bring trouble to us, we will not forgive you." Aaron held his gaze, his silence sharper than any word. The man cursed under his breath and walked away. But Aaron knew the danger was no longer only outside, it was inside the camp too. The girl sensed it. She looked at Aaron, her voice low. "We should go. You are in danger because of us." Aaron shook his head firmly. "No, leaving now will only make you easier to catch, trust me." That night the children slept in his tent, their fragile breaths the only sound. Aaron stayed awake, his knife resting on his knee, his eyes fixed on the shadows outside. Then it happened. Just before dawn, the sharp cry of horns split the air. The soldiers had returned, their torches glowing like angry stars. The camp stirred in panic, men and women shouting, some grabbing weapons, others running for cover. Aaron rushed to wake the girl and her siblings. "Quiet, follow me," he whispered, his voice tense. But before he could move, the tent flap tore open. The man from before stood there, his face twisted with anger and fear. Behind him, two more figures. He pointed at Aaron's tent, shouting loud enough for the whole camp to hear. "Here, they are here. The human is hiding alien children." Aaron froze. Betrayal burned like fire in his chest. The girl gasped, clutching her siblings close. Soldiers stormed in almost instantly, their weapons raised. Their eyes scanning, they dragged Aaron out, shoving him to the ground. One of them kicked his knife away. The children cried out. The girl tried to shield them, but the soldiers grabbed her arms, traitor. One soldier snarled at Aaron. "You protect enemies. You hide rebels." Aaron's voice thundered. "They are only children." But his words fell on deaf ears. The man from the camp stepped forward, his eyes filled with a cruel satisfaction. "Take them. Do what you want, but leave us. We had nothing to do with this." Aaron's blood boiled, rage burning through his veins. He wanted to strike. He wanted to tear that man apart, but chains of steel and soldiers' hands held him down. The girl screamed, her small body twisting against the soldier's grip. "Please," she cried, her voice breaking. "It was me, not him. Let him go, please." Aaron's heart cracked. He tried to rise, but the soldiers pressed him harder into the dirt, his face scraping against the ground. The betrayal was complete. The camp that should have been a refuge had become a cage, and now the soldiers had their prize. Aaron lifted his head, his eyes burning, his voice low but sharp. "You may call me traitor, but I will never betray them." The soldiers laughed coldly, dragging the children away, Aaron's wrists bound in iron, and as dawn painted the sky with blood-red light, he knew this was no longer a fight for survival. It was a fight for truth, for loyalty, and for a bond stronger than fear. The soldiers dragged Aaron through the camp, chains biting into his wrists. The alien girl and her siblings were shoved ahead of him, their small cries echoing against the cold morning air. The camp's people stood watching, some with pity, some with fear, but none stepped forward. Aaron's eyes burned, not at the soldiers, alone, but at the silence of those who once called him ally. The commander of the soldiers approached, tall and clad in dark armor, his voice sharp. "You hide enemies, human. You protect the blood of traitors, do you deny it?" Aaron lifted his head, dirt on his face, blood on his lip, but his voice steady. "They are not traitors. They are children, hungry children," the commander sneered, his eyes cold. "A rebel is born from a rebel. Mercy is weakness. Weakness brings chaos." He raised his hand, signaling his men to strike before the order could fall. The alien girl cried out, her voice breaking the air. "Stop, it was me. I stole the food. I begged him for help. Punish me, not him." The soldiers froze. The camp murmured in shock. The commander laughed darkly. "You think your words can save him, little thief?" Aaron felt rage and sorrow mix inside him. His chains rattled as he rose to his knees. His voice thundered louder than the commander's. "No, if blame must fall, let it fall on me. I chose to shelter them. I chose to give them food. If that makes me traitor, then I accept it." The commander's eyes narrowed. "You would throw away your life for these aliens?" Aaron stared back, his voice sharp. "Yes, because they still know honor, they still know sacrifice more than you ever will." The crowd stirred. Whispers rose. Some of the camp's people lowered their heads in shame. Even a few soldiers shifted uneasily. The commander snarled, stepping closer, his weapon drawn. "Your words mean nothing. I will cut you down where you kneel." Aaron's chains clinked as he stood taller, his body shaking but unbroken, his voice calm yet fierce. "Then do it. But understand this. Every child you call enemy will haunt you. Every life you crush will be a shadow over your empire, and one day even your soldiers will see you for what you are." The silence was heavy. The soldiers hesitated. The alien girl stared at Aaron with wide eyes, her tears shining like stars. Her siblings clung to her, trembling, yet watching. The commander raised his blade, but his own men faltered. One stepped forward, his voice low. "Commander, they are only children." The commander turned, rage flaring. "Silence, do not question my order." But hesitation had already spread. The soldiers exchanged uneasy glances, their hands loose on their weapons. Aaron saw it, the small crack in their armor. He pressed forward with his voice, strong and unshaken. "Look at them. Look at their faces. Do they look like rebels, or do they look like the children you left behind at home?" The soldiers wavered, some lowering their blades. The camp's people stepped closer, whispers growing into voices. The commander roared, in fury, striking Aaron across the face with his weapon's hilt. Blood spilled, but Aaron did not fall. He stood firm, his eyes burning brighter than fire. In that moment, the alien girl stepped forward. Breaking free from the soldier holding her, she threw herself in front of Aaron, arms spread wide. "You will not hurt him," she cried, her voice trembling but fierce. The commander froze, his blade inches from her. The entire camp gasped. Aaron looked down at her small figure standing before him, her courage shining brighter than the sun, and he felt strength flood through his veins. The chains on his wrists no longer felt heavy. His spirit no longer felt trapped. The stand had begun, not with weapons but with truth, not with strength but with courage, and in the eyes of the watching crowd, something was changing. The change. The camp was silent, the commander's blade still raised. The alien girl stood in front of Aaron, her small arms stretched wide, her voice echoing in the cold air. The soldiers froze, their eyes shifting from the commander to the girl to Aaron to the crowd gathering around. Whispers grew louder. Questions spread like fire. Aaron lifted his head, blood on his face, chains cutting into his skin, yet his voice was steady. "Look at her. A child ready to die for a human she barely knows. Tell me, Commander, which of us carries true honor, the one who kills children, or the one who protects them?" The words struck deep. Some soldiers lowered their weapons, their hands trembling. One muttered, "This is not justice." Another whispered, "This is slaughter." The commander's rage boiled. His voice thundered, "Silence! All of you. These are rebels. They deserve nothing but death." But even as he shouted, doubt spread like cracks through stone. The camp's people, once silent, now stepped forward, their voices joining. "They are only children," one woman cried. "He is no traitor," another man shouted. "He saved them when no one else dared." The commander roared, swinging his blade down, but Aaron moved. Pulling the girl behind him, the blade struck his chains instead, sparks flying. The iron snapped, his wrists free. The crowd gasped. The soldiers hesitated, and Aaron stood tall, taller than he ever had, his voice booming. "You call me traitor, but I call you coward because you fear children more than warriors, because you hide behind cruelty instead of facing truth." The alien girl clung to his arm, her siblings at her side, their eyes wide with hope. For the first time in days, they did not look like prey. They looked like survivors. The commander raised his weapon again, but before he could strike, one of his own soldiers stepped in front of him, blocking his path. "No more," the soldier said firmly. "This is not our fight. We are not executioners of children." Others followed, lowering their weapons, forming a line between the commander and Aaron. The commander shouted in fury, but his voice now echoed hollow. The camp erupted, voices rising, humans and even some soldiers speaking together. The commander was no longer feared, he was isolated, his power slipping like sand. Aaron placed his hand gently on the girl's shoulder, his eyes steady, his voice calm. "You are safe now." The girl looked up at him, tears shining, her lips trembling. "Why did you not let me take the blame?" Aaron knelt down, meeting her eyes, his words soft. "Because no child should carry the burden of the world. That burden is mine, and together we will change it." The soldiers who sided with the commander slowly backed away, shame on their faces. Those who chose mercy stayed, their eyes locked on Aaron, the alien girl, and the children she had saved with her courage. As the sun rose higher, the camp was no longer the same. Whispers turned into belief. Fear turned into resolve. What began with stolen bread had become something greater. Aaron looked at the faces around him, tired, broken, yet stirred with hope. And he spoke words that would echo far beyond the ruins. Sometimes one act of kindness can feed more than hunger. It can feed the soul of a galaxy. The alien girl pressed her small hand into his, her siblings holding on to both of them, their bond stronger than chains, stronger than fear. The commander had tried to break them, but instead he had awakened something new, a spark of unity between those once divided, and as the camp stood together for the first time in years, Aaron believed the galaxy could change, not with blades, not with fire, but with the courage of the weak and the choice of the strong, and it all began with one silent encounter and a stolen piece of bread.